atmospheric water machines has been talked about a lot by other resources that would provide more sources of potable water. Machines has on fresh water for all of our housing needs. Um, Atmospheric water machines has been talked about a lot by other resources that would provide more sources of potable water. Let's see, designating specific areas and specific types of uh, modular or tiny structures that would be allowed in designated areas that would get special permitting so they could have insurance and things like that, and focusing those areas on lands that people can agree with that are within our community plan area, and kind of for our displaced people between the two fire stations or close by. It's been relayed to me that it wouldn't really be appropriate to have people that ran away or evacuated from the fire to be put in like Ukumehame, Olowalu, or Laniapoko because it is so dry. There's not a lot of infrastructure. A lot of people had lost their cars. So focusing it between the two fire stations is what a lot of folks want. Specific areas that have been thrown around to me, besides the three projects that they'd like moving forward, the Kaiaulu, Kupuohi, Kukuya, and Pulelehua. Pukoli Village, Mauka, 249 acres up there, that's been entitled through the 201G process, which predates even 201H. That's an area that's close to existing jobs and where schools will be. The 50-acre park where the county just bought that ag land, as well as the 40 acres Mauka of the it's MLP land, Mauka of the community garden, talking about like maybe a possible 10-year conditional permit for those modular structures that could possibly be somewhat off grid, so that when the people's lots get cleared, they could take their modular structure back to their lot and possibly live in that while they rebuild their main house, and then or live in the main house and rent that out to other displaced people, or any kind of combination of that. There's been talk about a little bit about the historic district, if it's a good thing or not a good thing, and what history is it that we want to create with it being a clean slate. If we could employ professional facilitators and planners to help describe the overall vision of what we want to see going forward. If it's necessarily the plantation era, when there's so many towns in Hawaii that have that plantation era. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about tearing down Pioneer Mills, the smokestack or anything, but like what historic aspects of Lahaina do we want to comprehensively bring forward? And definitely Moku'ula was brought up, Loko Mokuhinia, even the traditional name of Lahaina as Lele and Kamalu Ulu o Lele, visions of just a huge grove of ulu trees bring back that that kind of history. And certain folks have been reached out from different parts of the Pai'aina about, starting ulu nurseries. And then, of course, the corresponding concern was quarantine areas, because if we're getting ulu from Oahu or Big Island, we don't want to also get the coconut rhinoceros beetle, the little fire ant, koki, myconia, and so on and so forth. The idea of the sea level rise exposure area being a setback. Um, the ideas of multimodal transportation, sidewalks, and larger streets. Although there is a little bit conflict if we need to make the streets wider, um, there is concern of taking a 6 foot easement from existing property. Another idea to combat that was there was talk about one-way streets on those substandard side streets and making a traffic flow plan if getting easements on people's lot lines is not something that like a whole street is willing to do, and then having sidewalks and multimodal transportation paths, greenways and bikeways and things like that. Some folks were saying like if they had their bike, they could have gotten out easier or things like that. And just like some of the testifiers said, a lot of people aren't in the space of revisioning or visioning of what the future will be when we don't know what their properties look like now or where they're going to be staying past October 8th, or even just trying to look for some childcare for their kids in West Maui. So in just listening to the testifiers, I mean, I'm not blaming or anything, but it was kind of I don't think the full range of possibility of this situation has been given a chance to be expressed by folks because of the headspace that a lot of people are in and the fear and the uncertainty at this time. So possibly if we are able to give a framework or a starting point for discussion that can help to draw people out of that headspace of where they're at right now, and a goal and a hope of where it can get to in the end, possibly with everybody signing into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Paltin.